hello there, YouTube. Holy moly. Another beautiful 57 degree Wednesday, July 21st. Isn't it crazy? We're just about to dust off July. Wasn't it like last week I was saying we're coming to the end of June? And the month before that, and the month before that. It all happened so fast. Man, it feels so nice out here. Old Kai about to crash out over there by the barn. Absolutely beautiful. Man, sure be nice to take a day off or two. But that don't pay the bills, unfortunately. All right, let's knock off a hump day. I think it's going to be, weather-wise, a very nice day today.
I think so.
It's only up to 64, even here in Vanchulo land.
That'll work.
It's very comfortable. It's very nice. Well, Mama, we've reached the old proverbial hump day.
We did.
Yep, we're in that pendulum point.
Yeah. Just got a crossover.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Have a wonderful day there, little
You
woman.
too, sweetie.
Love you. See you. Bye.
I love you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Man, I don't know if that's a GS or an RS. That thing is very, very nicely done. It's all blacked out. That looks incredible. Nicely done. Yeah, it looks like the wheels have been painted. That's sick. These are fun. That's pretty cool. So you guys remember this Ryker? Literally from May of last year is when I think it was sold and we ran into the problems. So it's lived down here since then. So speaking with BRP about this thing, there's a TST about the possibility of the wrong cams being installed. Well, if you read the symptoms of that, that is this Ryker to a T. It's almost like the engineers came here, played with this Ryker, and wrote that technical service tip bulletin, which is just kind of an internal bulletin. So, talking to them, I says, look, the GM, this is the oldest vehicle in our fleet. And, you know, the corporate people are freaking out because this thing is still in our inventory. It's actually considered a used bike because we bought it back from the gal and gave her another. And she's been happy ever since. And anyway, said that, you know, he goes, I'm willing to just go ahead and buy a set of the cams if you think that's what it is. I said, I'm telling you, it's the cams. I think even the color markings must be wrong on them. So talked to, oddly enough, that same day, a gentleman from BRP calls, and I talked to him, and I told him, he goes, look, no, you're not buying nothing. He goes, go ahead and order a set of those cams. I want you to pull off the all of the intake manifold off of there and inspect for proper sealing and whatnot. So I've gone through all that. Anyway, I'm going through the process of removing the cams, and Ryan was working on a boat, a Spark, that uses the same cam lock tool and the same crank. That might have a customer's name on it. That might even have it there too. But there's the crank lock tool, there's the cam lock tool. So there's two things you lock down. And when both of those are locked down, the engine is timed and the cams are timed. So, and that's how you take, there's things you got to torque and whatnot as you're replacing cams or doing other things on the engine. So those things were out for Ryan. So I grabbed those again and I'm hooking everything up. And it's the hardest thing. It's kind of a tricky thing. You gotta, you know, the number two or the center cylinders at TDC compression when the crank is in the position where there's a groove in the crank weight that the tool clicks into. It's like a V in it, and it goes. You basically screw it in. The crankshaft is, you know, of course, round. Let's just use this as an example. And there's like a V spot that's perfectly for a crank lock tool. It's just a V in the casting of the crankshaft. Well, that goes in, it locks down, snug her a little bit so she's tight, the engine, the crank and stuff is locked. And then the cam lock tool, that weird thing, slides in. There's grooves on the intake and exhaust cam, and it locks into place. You know, everybody is where they need to be. BRP's had me check that twice, 2 different times, double verify. And I've done it probably 3 times total, maybe once or more by myself, so maybe more than 3 times. Every time the cams are perfectly timed, the cam lock tool, the timing marks, and the crank is all locked. Everything's perfect. I'm putting it back in today, and it's like, that's not quite the crank lock tool. I can get it to move. So I use a dial gauge to verify that I'm at absolutely, without question, top dead center on that number 2 or center cylinder. And I slide the tool in, and then, you know, with the crank lock tool, you turn the end of the crankshaft, and then she's locked. I mean, it's locked. You can torque things down with it. It locks it so hard. I look up, the timing marks on the sprockets aren't correct. So I grab the cam lock tool. The cam lock tool will not fall down in the hole. I go, man, I every time I do this thing, it's kind of janky getting this thing at TDC, you know. So I start backing the thing out, and that no, I am absolutely, without question, in the crank lock position. The tool's going in, it's going in the groove, it is lock solid. I could flip this thing off the bench, it's locked so solid. So I back the thing out, and I go in. I don't know how many times I've looked into the cams. They're absolutely perfect. The cam tool falls in. Why now? What's going on now? I found that when if I line the cam up and drop the cam lock tool in there, there is a false crank lock notch in there. Now, you know, you never overstress it. If it's hard, give her a harder yank. You never do something like that. So anyway, I thought something's weird. So it's perfectly locked going one direction, but if I give it a little force, it's not in a V. There is a false crank lock position. I don't know if it's just a casting thing in there or what, but when you're in it, there's no question you're in it. But the thing is false enough, and not wanting to force anything, and the fact that the cams are perfectly lined up leads you to believe you're in it. I was actually not in it. So it still has the same cam, same everything, both sprockets, and whoever in Austria, I think the engines are still made in Austria. It's a Rotax engine. I may be wrong. I know the bike is assembled in Mexico and stuff, but I'm pretty sure the engine comes from Austria. Whoever did that found the same false crank lock position, and that works out to be exactly, I mean perfectly, 1 tooth off on each cam. So it was the cams after all, but it wasn't that it had the wrong cams, it was the correct cams. And that TST, there was a production date in the 2020s where they went to a different color profile on the cams. So this one does have the correct cams in it. Anyway, everything's cool. Going back together, that's what I've been messing with. But it really just drives me nuts that I was fooled by this thing so many times. And it took accidentally taking the tool completely out and putting it back in, and finding that the timing was off. And I go, whoa, I'm in the wrong lock position. There should only be one. So anyway, further investigation, just like I explained, I realized there is a false one in there that'll lead you to believe. So, maybe grab the end of the crankshaft and give it a little forceful turn and make sure. I mean, you can torque things to crazy high torques with that crank lock tool in there. So, don't be afraid. Give it a little yank. Yeah, it pulls out on one side. Won't go the other way. Pulls out on the other side. There's proof you're not in the V. You're in a hole, but a ridge on one side and it slips out on the other. That's been my day, playing with a Ryker. and I just literally talk to you guys forever. Inside this box right here is 2 full sets of muffler packing for my Rush 1.5 inch baffles inside my iron. I know it's riding that thing. I've been noticing it since last year. She's starting to get pretty raspy sounding. Sounds good when it idles, but you know, at speed, it's just raspy. Sounds like the packing's gone out of it. So in the past, what you did is you ordered the cores. It's pre-wrapped and everything. You just pull the old cores out, throw the new one. I would probably save them, you know, because you can always repack them, but it's easy. It's pre-wrapped. Yank it, slide the new one in, find the little, you know, safety alignment hole thing, put your screw back in, you're good. Ride it. They no longer make the 1.5 inch baffles anymore, for one, and they don't make them at all for pre-14. So the pre-CAN bus, which mine's a 13, so they don't make the core at all for that one. Well, they do, but it's like a 2.25. It'd be loud. It's a big one. And I have the 1.5, which was kind of unique at the time. Anyway, so, but they do sell the packing that fits that. So it takes 2 sheets per baffle. So it's 4 sheets per exhaust change. I don't know when I'll do that, but it needs to be done sooner than later. I need to get that deep, bassy sound back in her. She sounds good when she idles, you know, because that's just a, you know, idle's idle. But yeah, I went down the freeway there for a bit trying to save some time the other day when I took you guys for after work ride. And I'm like, man, that don't sound good going down the freeway. I mean, it sounds fine, but it's raspy sounding where it used to have this deep, like, feel it in your helmet, bassy sound. That's gone. That's just the packing. You got to repack those things every once in a while. There's a lot of mechanical baffle ones, but yeah, they're just going to sound the way they sound forever. So anyway, that's enough jello jacking about Harley baffles and Can-Am on-road Rykers. This will be a runner here real soon. The old Rush mufflers. So I bought enough to do the mufflers twice. Each one takes 2 wraps. So I got enough to do it twice. Because it's kind of getting sketchy getting stuff from them. I don't know what's going on. I mean, they still show a bunch of stuff, but most of the stuff is newer bikes. And really few things for the 09, you know, looking at the irons for 09 through 13. Everything's for the 14 and newer. Thankfully, Harley doesn't change stuff a whole lot. But when, you know, I bought this, it was literally right before the 14s came out. I wouldn't have waited anyway. And who knew that, you know, after them being the same for so long, that they would suddenly change the CAN bus and improve the brakes and all that stuff. Anyway, those things have been in there for about 7 years. Wonder how easy it's going to be to get that out. Let's give her a shot. Not what I expected at all. It's mostly completely intact. It still has the masking tape stuff that they wrapped it with still on it. It's mostly still there. Huh. I expected that to be completely burnt out. What you usually find is a clump of it. You know, just chunks of it left down at the bottom of the pipe. Definitely did not expect it to be the full length of the baffle. Well. I don't know, redoing this is gonna, I mean, it'll help some, but there's not gonna be any big changes in sound. You notice the lack of rust? That's because I don't short run my motorcycles. Get the exhaust hot and it burns any moisture that comes from the engine, which is a natural act. And you keep them alive. You short run your bike, you will never, and I mean ever, get that baffle out of that pipe. Not without some serious banging and a booming. But look at that, nice, well-built baffles. See, that's the 1.5 inch baffle. Well, definitely not what I expected. While I'm sitting here, I see this over here sitting on the floor. That's the control box that was causing the problems with my with our well. Just that little thing. Still ain't got a bill from him, so I don't know what he's even charging. But it don't matter. It's nice having water. Nice. Well, we had water, just having real pressure. That's super nice. So I cut it in half. There's the 2 layers. They have you wrap 2 pieces of it around. And as you can see, it was all there. I mean, it wasn't even, this is where it was against the, the pleating, whatever you call the thing in the baffle. Nothing was blown out. Just the tape wrapping, and which didn't even hardly burn off. Usually you take it off and all you got is just this flakes of stuff, if even that's left of them. That thing was burning perfect. Crazy. Didn't have to do that. Oh well. At least I'll know it's got fresh packing in it now. Alright, so much for that experiment. But we tried. Well, hello there, YouTube. There you go. That kind of bums me. I pulled out once you do it, and now I got to pull the other one out and make them both the same. You can't have 2 different packing things. I don't think I have the right tape to wrap those things anyway, so I'll have to look into that, see if we can find it. If not, get a hardware store somewhere and get some masking tape. Yeah, masking tape. You want it to burn out. It's crazy it didn't even burn the tape out of there. That just baffles my mind. But anyway, on that, I think we're going to make it short and sweet and slip on out on you.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you. We thank you so very much for watching. We really do appreciate it. We will talk to you tomorrow. Same smoke time, same smoke channel. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and you guys have an amazing Thursday or Friday.
Heck yeah.
I almost couldn't remember how it started. My brain just went, yeah.
Sometimes that happens to us. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the morning.
See you then.
Thanks now. Bye-bye.